I guess we should talk religion after the poems. A lot of people tell you that the opposite of hate, or the opposite of love rather, is hate. That's not true. It's a misunderstanding of the dichotomy of the world. The opposition of love is fear, isn't it? It's afraid. When you love something, you walk towards it. When you're afraid of something, you walk away from it. When you hate something, you walk towards it, eh? So love and hate are not opposites. They're very closely aligned, love and hate. They're friends. Whereas fear, that is the absence of love, eh? That's how we feel towards our neighbours who live on the other side of the world. We fear them. It's how we feel about our last day on this earth and that last time we're going to close our eyes, eh? It's hard to feel anything other than fear. And this reaction to fear is why we need religion. Because we are all afraid. We've all been afraid. But it doesn't have to define us. And so we take this religion to fucking taekwondo our fear into something more productive. Hey. But make sure your religion is working. Make sure it doesn't take your fear of death and turn it into a hatred of your neighbour. Make sure that the person who is helping you cope with your fear of the dark, with your fear of being alone, isn't preaching hate in the name of love, isn't preaching perfection and the attainment of perfection. I don't know if you guys know this, but Jesus wants you to be perfect. And then he tells you that that's impossible. Jesus needs you to do the impossible in order to be saved. And he tells you that only he can do the impossible. And then he waits for you to fail. How does that make you feel, to fail, eh? To need to be perfect by your God. It doesn't feel very good. It's not a nice thing to do to your kids. Do you say it to your kids? Do you say it better be perfect first time? Or do you give them allowance, a time to grow up? Some time and space to learn? If you love your kids, I bet you would. I bet you would look at them with understanding instead of fail for the very first imperfection. Now this idea of needing to be perfect, it was given to us by Jesus, the so-called Christ. Before then, nobody needed to be perfect. We could be instead who we are. Our imperfect human selves was good enough. Until Jesus Christ said that there is a hell awaiting everyone who is imperfect. And by the way, we all are. The only way to avoid that hell is to take his cure. Well, I can prove that wrong if you want. It's quite easy. Because all we have to do is prove that Jesus Christ was not perfect. And that's one of the most easy problems in the world to solve. Because perfection is understood by all. And we can all imagine something that is more perfect than something else. So all we have to do is look at Christ and say, is there anything that I can do to imagine his life being better? And that way we've proved his imperfection. It's quite an easy experiment to run. Read a story about Jesus Christ, see if you can write it better. It's easy because the authors of the ancient and dead past were not very good authors. You're a better author. Now, that's only because you live now and they lived 2,000 years ago, so I wouldn't really judge yourself as a great author compared to these people who have had their book on the top seller for as long as there's been a top seller. But back then they didn't have the sophistication that we had. Hey, they didn't know about all of our Star Wars and all this storytelling sophistication. They were just building on nothing, eh? But now we're more sophisticated, and so if we look at the gospel of Jesus Christ, we say, can I make it more perfect? Of course we can. Let me just do it really quick. Very hard one, you'll say. Nobody can criticize the golden rule. It's impossible. No one could ever criticize the golden rule, for it is perfect, given us by our perfect brother. Well, let me just do it really quick. Here it is. Do unto others, and you would have them do unto you. That assumes your brother's like you, doesn't it? That assumes your brother wants what you want. That's a terrible and stupid and foolish assumption. Your brother does not want what you want. He wants other things. Do not treat your brother like you would want him to treat you. Instead, treat your brother like your brother would want you to treat him. And if you don't know how your brother would want you to treat him, spend the time to ask him and get to know him. So there, I've criticized Jesus Christ. I've shown that the golden rule, the one true rule of this society, is utter bullshit. And I'll do it to everything he said. For he was a fictional character from the Iron Age Judea, early Iron Age.